My stepmom tried to steal my college fund. This all started when my dad remarried when I was 13, about a year after my mom passed away from cancer. We were both devastated. But my dad has always been the kind of person who tries to fix things quickly. Within 6 months, he was dating Samantha. They got married a year later. At first, I tried to give her a chance. I really did. I even picked out a necklace for her as a wedding gift. But almost from the second she moved in, it became clear she didn't see me as family. She saw me as competition. She tried to redecorate my room while I was away at camp, turning it into some beige guest room vibe, because apparently a teenager's posters and fairy lights were tacky. I ended up crying until my dad forced her to let me put my stuff back. She refuses to let me have pictures of my mom displayed in common spaces. She literally took a framed picture of my mom, holding me as a baby off the mantle, and shoved it in a box in the garage. Her reasoning? It makes the house feel like a shrine to another woman. She constantly makes these passive-aggressive digs about how independent I am. Translation, she hates that I don't run to her for help. Like, I'm some little kid desperate for a new mommy. The biggest issue, though, has always been money. My mom had a life insurance policy and she left the payout in a trust fund for me, managed by my uncle, her brother. That money is for college. My dad knows it, my uncle knows it, but Samantha has always acted like it should be family money. She's made comments about how it would be better spent on remodeling the kitchen or on vacations we could all enjoy together. My uncle has always shut that down, but she's never forgiven me for hoarding the money. Fast forward to this year, I'm applying to colleges, and I actually got into my dream school out of state, a really good program for what I want to study. The tuition is insane, but that's exactly what my mom's trust was for. My uncle was thrilled and already started paperwork to release funds when the time comes. However, Samantha lost it. She's been pressuring my dad for weeks to convince me to go to the local state school instead, where tuition would be cheaper so that I could save the trust fund. The thing is, she's not suggesting I save it for myself, but her son, my stepbrother, who is apparently not as academically inclined. She thinks it's reasonable for me to share the trust fund with him, since it would give us both a chance. I told her point blank that it's mine and that it's for my education. She told me I was selfish and disrespecting the family unit. My dad shockingly took her side and said maybe I should consider splitting the fund just to keep the peace. Then things escalated even further last weekend when my uncle came over for dinner. Samantha started complaining again about how unfair it was for me to hog the trust when her son would need help too. My uncle, bless him, absolutely shredded her argument. He reminded her that legally the money is airtight and that my mom's wishes were clear. Samantha started crying like big fake sobs and said she just wants all the kids to feel equally loved. After my uncle left, she cornered me in the kitchen and told me I was a spoiled little brat and that I'd regret alienating her because sooner or later my dad won't be able to protect me. That last part freaked me out. I told my dad what she said and he brushed it off as me misinterpreting her. Now she's on a campaign. She's telling everyone in our extended family that I'm stealing from her son, that I refuse to be part of the family, and that I'm turning my dad against his wife. I've gotten texts from relatives I barely talk to, telling me to do the right thing. I feel like I'm losing my mind here. I love my dad, but the way he's folding to her is killing me. I'm scared that if I keep pushing, things will get even uglier. But I also know my mom would hate the idea of her money being used for Samantha's kid. My college deadline is coming up, and Samantha has started locking up mail and packages for household security, which I suspect is just her way of intercepting my acceptance letters and financial aid info. I caught her going through a stack of my paperwork on my desk. The other night, when she thought I was asleep, I found out she hid one of my acceptance letters. I only discovered it by accident. When I was grabbing laundry, she had tucked it into a stack of magazines in her nightstand. When I confronted her, she acted all offended and said she was just holding it for safekeeping because it looked important. I didn't buy it. I called my uncle immediately, and he drove over that night. He confronted both my dad and Samantha about interfering with my mail. My dad tried to play mediator, saying maybe it was just a misunderstanding, but my uncle wasn't having it. He made it clear that tampering with my college letters was basically illegal. Samantha stormed off, muttering about how everyone always sides against her. That was the moment I decided I couldn't stay in that house. I packed a bag and moved into my uncle's guest room that night. My dad called me the next morning, begging me to just come home and talk it out. He said Samantha didn't mean any harm. I told him flat out that if he kept minimizing her behavior, I couldn't live under his roof anymore. He got really quiet and then said, "You're choosing sides." That broke my heart, because he's the one choosing sides. I'm just trying to protect myself. My uncle has been incredible. He told me he promised my mom he'd always look out for me, and now he feels like that promise really matters. He even set up a small desk in his office, so I'd have a quiet place to finish my college applications. Of course, Samantha hasn't stopped. She's been calling relatives nonstop, spinning this wild story that I ran away because I don't like rules, and that I'm turning my uncle against my dad. She's also painting herself as this saint who tried to be a mother to a child who never accepted her. Now my cousins have started texting me asking what's really going on. I've been honest with them, but it's exhausting to constantly defend myself. Last weekend, my dad begged me to come to the house for a family meeting to try to work things out. Against my better judgment, I agreed. My uncle came with me, thankfully. The second we sat down, Samantha launched into this speech about how she's just trying to create fairness in the family, and how it's unhealthy for me to cling to my mother's money like it's some sacred cow. She actually said, "Your mom is gone. We are your family now. That money should benefit all of us." I thought my uncle was going to explode. He told her she was out of line, that she had no legal or moral claim to the trust, and that she needed to stop harassing me about it. She immediately turned on the waterworks, accusing me of manipulating my uncle into hating her. But the worst part was my dad saying, maybe we should all just agree that my stepbrother will get a portion for trade school and the rest of the tuition will go to me. That way everyone wins. I just sat there stunned. Everyone wins, except my mom's wishes are trampled. My stepbrother gets a payout for doing nothing, and Samantha gets her way. I can't even describe how betrayed I felt hearing my dad suggest that. After the meeting blew up, I went to the bathroom to collect myself. Samantha followed me in, closed the door, and whispered, "You think you've won because your uncle's on your side. But you won't always have him. Sooner or later, it'll just be you, and then we'll see how much of that money you really get to keep." I've never felt so unsafe in my life. I told my uncle on the spot, and he's now talking to a lawyer about getting a restraining order if she keeps this up. As if this wasn't enough, Samantha actually tried to involve my school. She called my guidance counselor pretending to be my concerned parent and claimed I was being pressured into going out of state by my uncle. My counselor saw through it, since she knows my whole situation, but she pulled me aside to let me know what happened. I was mortified. I'm living with my uncle full-time. He told my dad that until Samantha gets professional help, I won't be returning to the house. My dad is barely speaking to me. He sends short texts like, "Hope you're well," but never defends me against Samantha's lies. It's exhausting, but I've decided not to let their bitterness control my future. I've officially accepted my spot at my dream school. My uncle is handling all the financial stuff directly, so Samantha can't interfere. I feel relieved to be out of that house, but I'm also grieving. My dad used to be my rock, and now I feel like I've lost him to this manipulative, entitled woman. My uncle keeps reminding me that I'll be off to college soon, where I can finally build my own life away from her toxicity. For a while, that thought gave me hope that I might actually find some peace once I started fresh. I threw myself into school, into planning for the future, and into the excitement of leaving everything behind. But Samantha was never going to let me go that easily. After I accepted my spot at my dream school, things got even worse with Samantha. Even though I wasn't living in the house anymore, she kept finding ways to insert herself into my life. She'd show up at my school just to check on me, try to corner me in the parking lot, or send long texts about how real family sacrifices for each other. My uncle blocked her number on my phone plan, but she'd just start messaging me from different numbers or through my dad's phone. The scariest part? She showed up at my part-time job. I work at a local bookstore, and one afternoon she walked in, loudly told my manager that I'd stolen money from her son and demanded to know my schedule so she could supervise me. My manager knew the basics of my situation, told her to leave or the police would be called. I ended up crying in the back room. When I got home, I told my uncle what had happened at work. He knew this behavior couldn't continue and decided it was time to take action. He officially contacted a lawyer who sent Samantha a cease and desist letter. It stated in legal terms that any interference with my finances or education would be considered harassment, and that continued behavior could lead to a restraining order. You'd think this would have opened my dad's eyes. Instead, he called me and said I was humiliating him by treating his wife like a criminal. I told him calmly but firmly that Samantha was the one humiliating herself by stalking me and trying to sabotage my future. He said, "You're letting your uncle poison you against me." At that moment, it was like arguing with her through his voice. I can't describe how much that hurts. This is the man who used to pack my lunches, drive me to soccer practice, sit through every school play. And now he's basically her mouthpiece. Despite everything, I still wanted him to be there for the moments that mattered. My high school graduation was one of those rare moments I hoped he wouldn't miss. My school gave each student 6 tickets. I used 2 for my uncle and aunt, 1 for my cousin, and 3 for my dad, Samantha and my stepbrother. But that was a horrible idea. During the ceremony, Samantha made a scene. When my name was called and I walked across the stage, she actually stood up and yelled, "That's our daughter!" like some kind of territorial announcement. People stared. I wanted to sink into the floor. Afterward, she tried to force me to take pictures with her, clutching me like she was my proud mom. I pulled away and told her to stop. She started crying, of course, saying, "Why do you hate me so much? All I've ever done is try to love you." My uncle had to step in and escort me to the car. My dad just stood there, torn between comforting his wife and saying goodbye to me. He ended up doing neither. 2 weeks before I left for college, Samantha made one final attempt to get her hands on my trust. She called my uncle's lawyer directly. I still don't know how she even got the number, and said she wanted to renegotiate the terms of the fund to reflect the new family structure. The lawyer basically laughed her off the phone and documented everything. But when that didn't work, she tried to file a complaint with Child Protective Services, claiming my uncle was financially exploiting me and isolating me from my father. A CPS worker came to my uncle's house, did a quick check, and immediately saw it for what it was, a baseless claim. Still, the stress of having someone investigate your home, even briefly, was awful. After that ordeal, I tried to push it out of my mind and focus on what was ahead. Finally, the day came to move into my dorm. My uncle and aunt drove me, helped me set up my room, and stayed until I felt settled. My dad was supposed to come too, but the night before, he texted me, "We're not coming. Too much tension. Good luck." No explanation, no apology. I'm a month into college, and I love it here. The classes are challenging, but it feels like exactly where I'm meant to be. My uncle is still managing the trust, making sure tuition is paid on time and that Samantha can't interfere. My dad and I have barely spoken. He sends the occasional text, but it's always short and surface level. I've stopped expecting him to defend me or show up for me. That's been the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes a parent chooses their partner over their kid, and there's nothing you can do to change it. If there's anything I've learned from this nightmare, it's that entitlement can twist people into something unrecognizable. Samantha never saw me as a daughter. She saw me as a roadblock to money she thought she deserved. And my dad, for whatever reason, decided it was easier to enable her than to protect me. But I also learned something else. My mom chose the right guardian for my future. She trusted my uncle to look out for me, and he has. Without him, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know if my relationship with my dad will ever recover. Maybe someday, years from now, he'll wake up and see what he lost. But for now, I'm focusing on myself. That's all for now. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe for more.